This week on Queen's Conversations, join your hosts Lucia Dragos, Noran Omar, and me, John Collins, as we examine the tragic human costs of the recent crash in the value of the once coveted city-issued taxi medallion. Our guests are New York State Senators Leroy Comrie and Jessica Ramos, City Council candidate Felicia Singh, and taxi drivers Gamal Omar and Shazli El Tahir. And now, here's this week's Queen's Conversation.
As recently as the 2000s, drivers could purchase a taxi medallion for approximately $200,000.
Then the market prices began to soar. New medallions were brokered for up to $1.3 million each.
Thousands of drivers struggled to make their payments, and many soon began to fall into debt. Then the rideshare programs such as Uber and Lyft began to diminish the yellow taxi potential rider base, creating even more distress.
By 2014, the value of the medallion began to crash, and they were worth as little as $70,000. Driver bankruptcies multiplied, and many began to lose their incomes and homes.
The COVID pandemic was the final straw for struggling drivers, and it truly devastated the legendary New York taxi industry. Financially crushed, several drivers even took their own lives.
We interviewed two medallion taxi drivers to help us understand the devastating impact of what has happened to them and thousands of other drivers. Here's what they described.
Start like in 2014 when the medallion price dropped down. So we're talking about we struggle like almost 6 years now. The city, they let the medallion going up to high price, and in the meantime they go around and they let Uber and Lyft to share us this business. In 2002, it was $200,000. And now the medallion, they keep the medallion going up till $1.25 million. And right now, the price of the medallion, the cash price, about $60,000.
Wow.
They drop, dramatic drop is really is unbelievable. So in the beginning, we depend on this generate income, and a lot of people buy houses. A lot of people, they educate the family. It was really, we're getting very good income. But what going on the situation is very hard. A lot of people get suicide now. A lot of people go for bankruptcy. Some people, like me in my case, I storage the medallion and I'm waiting. I can't do anything. Even the bank, they try to request his money, I can't. So it's really, the situation is very hard and tough. If we take it like category, yeah, the people maybe in 30, in 20, they can recover. But people in our case, me and my friend Shadley, I believe over 60, and me over 60. And right now, we don't have time to recover this injury. It's very hard. So how we can survive?
I did buy my medallion 2004, was around 290 from the auction. You're gonna have good income, and the medallion going up until, the story you mentioned, Mr. Gamal, 2014. From this medallion, I'm making my income. I have my child. I'm struggling my life to take care of my child. I leave this medallion. All was my thought, my child. I mean, the medallion is gonna go for my child and my family. Right now, I'm 65. I did buy the house for my family, not for myself. The bank of the medallion bank, they asked me 2018 to sign the lien in the house, or they take the medallion. I asked them to take the medallion. I cannot let you sign lien in the house for my family. I mean, his little house. I'm struggling myself. I used to work for 12 hours and sometimes 14 hours to kill myself. I mean, the time is 2014. I used to have driver, and since Uber came in, most of the driver ran away and they went to drive for Uber. So I drive by myself, and I have to live with my family when I'm working 14 hours and I come home. I used to sleep in an airport. I mean, I was struggling a lot, only for my family. I'm now over 65, and I struggle. And after they took my medallion, I had a lot of stress. My blood pressure goes up. I had accident with the car, 2018, almost killing myself. I was nursing home for almost 4 months. I had 2 surgery in my leg. I'm disability right now. I'm just getting disability and working comp. I'm almost, lost everything. I'm just getting disability and working comp. I went to speak with the general, the attorney general in Manhattan, and I try with the taxi alliance. I try my best. Anybody help me? Nobody want to help. I almost killing myself before.
Terrible story.
I mean, even for somebody, I'm over 65. The medallion, I had it for my family, not for myself. I mean, it's not easy situation for someone over 60 until 65. I told him, I'm not, young man. I'm paying money for my house. I'm paying money for the medallion. And I have proof since 2004. The payment, I have it here. I mean, it's not easy situation.
We come in, we serve community, almost one like Shadley, one like me. We've been in this country serving the community more than 30 years. We serve and we are slave in the community. We take the people from A to Z. And this is the way you pay us after we're getting over 60 years old?
I mean, most of the time, I went outside, I stay in my car, I keep crying. It's not that easy for a man to cry. I'm struggling until now. I was thinking to kill myself.
This is our reward, to put us in the street, to make a person like this cry, to make everybody stick their life. Come on, you have to have some humility, some sense, some common sense. Why you put us in this? We are part of this country. We should this voice really going up in big or in top people take decision. They have to feel us. They have to let us what we do in our family. How our family can be in a street after 40 years serving community. And most of these people, believe me, is educated. Most of them you find bachelor degree, PhD, master degree, who are not coming from the street.
Council Member Singh, I understand that you could empathize with these drivers. Your father was a driver, and apparently the inspiration for your candidacy. Can you explain that?
Yeah, again, my name's Felicia Singh. I'm actually running for city council in District 32, which is in South Queens. And I am a daughter of a taxi driver. And our story resonates so deeply with the two taxi drivers that were speaking. I mean, my dad invested in a medallion in 1998. He took out a loan for about $250,000 with 12% interest. And even just hearing the interest, it sounds absurd, but what happened in our city could have been prevented but our city didn't do the work and the push and the legislation necessary to stop predatory lending. So where we are in the city right now is in an urgent place to provide debt relief that actually works for majority of the drivers. Unfortunately, our family had to declare for bankruptcy in 2019. And the bankruptcy process can be a long one. In the summer during the pandemic, the bank seized our medallion, which is pretty much like your license to drive. And it's your small business, it's your livelihood, it's your everything. And so my father was on unemployment and just like unemployed for about 3 months. And then recently on February 5th, the bank put a for sale sign on our home. And so now we're in an even more urgent place in the middle of a pandemic where you have taxi drivers who are not making an income, who are really struggling to pay their medallion, to pay their loan, and really keep their homes, literally, struggle to do that. The mayor most recently put out legislation or put out a plan for some sort of debt relief. But that plan is not good enough. It was a terrible plan. And every single day right now, New York Taxi Worker Alliance members are in front of City Hall looking for relief that's going to work for all of us. Especially a relief plan that they've built, one that restructures loan at $125,000, where drivers will be paying less than $800 over the course of 20 years. It's a sound plan. It was a plan that our New York City Comptroller and Attorney General Tish James had approved. And it's become such a disrespect that our city has adapted a plan that's not anywhere close to this one. So we will have families who are continuing to struggle, who are continuing to file for bankruptcy like my family did, and are at risk of losing their homes.
I had a chance to speak with Senator Jessica Ramos about her bill to help the drivers, and here's what she explained.
I think before we start talking about taxi debt relief, it's important to understand why the taxis are in debt, because it's not their fault. Okay. You know, many years ago, the city of New York advertised taxi medallions as a smart investment, an opportunity for many people to own their business. And they ran ads, marketing ads that said that it was a better investment than the stock market. And that I quote. And just a short time later, Uber and Lyft started to appear. And if you remember, you know, when they arrived, they were really allowed to operate without any regulation, without any cap on how many. They were allowed to run rampant. So it made it a lot more difficult, of course, for yellow cabs to compete. Now, over time, they've let green cabs also be Uber and Lyft drivers, but not the yellow cabs. Yellow cabs can't be Uber and Lyft drivers. They can only use their own app or be hailed in the street, which people are doing less and less. So these big lenders, the biggest one called Marblegate, ended up buying a lot of these mortgages that the taxi medallion owners were now in debt with, right? And unfortunately, the predatory lending that took place left many taxi driver owners in terrible financial strain, to the point we've seen many file for bankruptcy. We've seen many see foreclosure signs be placed on their homes. And unfortunately, the worst has happened too. A handful of our taxi drivers have committed suicide, some right outside of City Hall. This is a very serious problem. And so, You know, it's very unfortunate that brokers ended up speculating the value of the taxi medallions so high, and of course, took advantage of an immigrant workforce who doesn't speak English very well, perhaps doesn't have access to the right legal counsel, right? These are all things that we know are necessary when you enter any contract, any sort of contract. And so what we're looking to do here is to help them out. You know, obviously ridership went down during the pandemic even further, putting them into greater financial strain. And we believe that the city is at fault for their practices. They have liability here. So we're asking on behalf of these taxi drivers for some forgiveness, for some admittance of liability, and for us to help them, because helping them helps our communities. I represent the largest number of TLC licensees right here in Jackson Heights and East Elmhurst and the surrounding areas. And so I have a bill that proposes that the state be a backstop on those loans, and that we help folks, lower their payments, and get out of these predatory situations and hopefully into better financial solvency.
And when you say backstop, so it will be a certain amount that they will have to pay.
Yes, $125,000, given the valuation of the medallions. The state would become a backstop for the loan up until for that amount.
So they'll not be paying any more than that, even if their medallion, they bought it higher than that.
That's correct.
Price. And then the interest rate will be?
The interest rates are something that we would have to determine, but we're not looking, we're looking for zeros here. We're looking to help these folks get out of the massive debt they were fooled into.
What support did the bill get?
Well, we have lots of support. We have support from the chair of the Corporations, Authorities, and Commissions Committee in the state Senate, who's State Senator Leroy Comrie. He happens to represent the second largest district with TLC licensees. And also State Senator Tim Kennedy from Buffalo, if you can believe it. He chairs the Transportation Committee in the state Senate, and he's also been supportive of the bill. In fact, the three of us held a hearing some weeks ago in order to further understand the calamity of the situation and how it is that we could go about fixing it. And so I've been very happy to see more of my colleagues come on board. I've been disappointed with the city's response. They came out with their own plan, which lacked a lot of details. We still don't know if, according to those smaller loans that the city would be providing, whether there would be any balloon payments involved that would just make the situation worse for the taxi drivers. So we're waiting for a lot of news. My disappointment is that the city's plan doesn't exactly offer the forgiveness that we're looking for here, given the financial situation.
That is Senator Ramos this morning. She was explaining the bill. Senator Comrie, maybe you can talk a little bit in details about the bill and what really, who will really support.
Yes, Senator Ramos laid out pretty much the aspects of the bills. We're looking to create loan forgiveness with this program, or the opportunity to make sure that these drivers could have these loans forgiven. What we need to also point out is that a lot of these loans, they did not know that they were signing over title or opportunity to lose their homes with this, and a lot of these. A lot of these loans were done by, lenders that had an ulterior motive in mind, because, as the Senator Ramos said, they knew they were dealing with a new immigrant population. A lot of folk went to sign a loan without bringing a lawyer or having it reviewed. They put their faith and trust in the city, that the city put them in an opportunity to get something that would be fair and something that would not wind them up into a situation where they were fearing for their value of their homes to be lost, that they would lose an opportunity to house their family, that they would actually even lose an opportunity to be a unique and privileged supplier to the city, which is what the taxis originally were. The city failed back when they were first working to deal with the whole issue with Uber, to not make sure that the medallions were valued, to not make sure that the medallions were given a priority. They failed in that, and of course that's been a international failure to deal with the onslaught with Uber. But then they continue to allow the prices to go up even during that time, and they continue to even do less monitoring on who were packaging the loans for these drivers, and that's even a bigger issue that still hasn't been resolved. There needs to be investigations into these lenders and these mortgage holders that wound up putting a lot of these drivers' homes in jeopardy as they were trying to make a living, trying to do something that was iconic, which was to be a near city taxi driver, which at one time was a guaranteed income for people. But the city and the world has taken that away, and the city should be obligated to do more than what they've done. Their package is saddening. It's disrespectful, and if it were any other group of people, it would be a much better package. So, but just to be specific, our bill is very clear that we want to see the loans eliminated. We want to give the drivers an opportunity to get back to total forgiveness on the loans. It's not, and we want the city and the mortgage companies that are holding these loans, or the lenders, or whatever they're calling themselves, to do the right thing by these people, because some of them should be facing criminal charges for the types of loans that they put these drivers in under.
We've heard mention of the city plan, the de Blasio proposal, which is a total package of about $65 million. Can either of you explain and compare and contrast that proposal with your present bill?
Our bill would, again, eliminate all debt, whereas the city's loan package would only eliminate about 60% of the debt on these drivers. A lot of these drivers, because of the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, had pretty much lost the entire value of their license. Some people are saying that the taxi medallions are still worth $200,000. I don't necessarily believe that. There's a valuation that says that they're worth about $70,000. I think it's somewhere around the middle. So, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to continue to push the city. But I believe the major differences between the bills is that, number one, our bill is looking for total loan forgiveness. The city's bill would still have them in debt and owing money. And I believe that they would have to still come up with loans just to pay off the debt as well.
Honestly, as a daughter of a taxi driver, I feel for Felicia and honestly all the taxi medallion owners. It is devastating. The situation is not taken seriously. This is affecting families, not just the driver. Like Felicia, I know that your home, I'm so sorry about that. I know a bunch of my father's friends who have committed suicide and who their families are in jeopardy, and it's really affecting them, and it's not fair. Senator Leora Comrie, thank you so much for your bill, which will potentially help a lot of taxi drivers. I know that there were so many bills and so many protests that have been happening, and it was just talk. There was no action being taken to it. So I had a question in regards to the taxi drivers who have sold their houses and now either they put their taxi medallion in storage and they can't work because of this license. What will be the next step? So once they put the cap of this bill for $120,000 and they pay that off, would they still be able to work in the medallion, or should they find another job, or I don't know, what would the next process be for them?
I think it would be up to the individual drivers. I think the main thing that we need to do is to make sure that any drivers that are in foreclosure issues, that we help them. There are plenty of programs. In fact, we refunded and improved the amount of foreclosure programs in this year's budget. So any driver that's watching this program, please, if you're in danger of foreclosure on your home, please reach out to one of our offices so that we can help you, put you in touch with the legal services programs that we have that are free, that will help you maintain your home, and we're willing to take this on. And we also have some legal service providers that are aware of the issue with the drivers and medallions and have been successful in keeping people in their homes. We don't want anybody to lose their home as a result of this, so we would plead with you, don't suffer in silence. Don't try to be noble. To reach out to someone for help, because even if you're in foreclosure, and this is going for anyone that's having a foreclosure problem, we can keep you in your home. We can work with the different legal services providers to talk to the banks that are holding the mortgage, or the mortgage brokers or lenders that are holding the mortgage, and make sure that we're doing everything we can to stop the foreclosure. So, but I think it's an individual decision on the drivers as to what they want to do. If they want to continue to, stay as a taxi driver or sell their medallions. But I think the optimum goal is to get people to be able to, if they want to give up their medallion, be able to sell it at a reasonable price, so that they could pay off their debt.
I had a question in regards to Congressman Gregory Meeks. He had a bill. Can you explain how that fits into the bill that Senator Ramos has, or is that?
Yeah, it's on a federal level. The congressman is part of sits on the banking committee, on a subcommittee in Congress, and he's looking to push the banks to do loan forgiveness altogether for these for the medallion drivers. So we're trying to work together on state, federal, and city level to come up with a real solution. And again, I want to go back to what I said earlier. These banks deliberately did these loans in an unscrupulous manner. The city allowed these loans to go through unchecked without, taking care of folks that are trying to work hard. These are not folks that, when you heard some of the drivers, they're working, 27 hours a day, 8 nights a week, as they say. People are putting in their entire livelihood, every ounce of their energy and power. These are people that want to work. These are people that thought they had an opportunity to work in an environment where they could feel that they could get a decent living from. And traditionally having a medallion before 2013 was a path to a middle class livelihood. So that the city took that away from them by, number one, overvaluing the medallions, by number two, giving them and moving them to lenders that were unscrupulous, that deliberately wrote out loans that would put their homes in jeopardy. So I think the city has a major obligation to do right by these drivers, and we're going to all continue to press to try to force that to happen. So we're going to use pressure points from wherever we can, working with our Congress people, working on the state level, and forcing, the mayor's office, whoever the mayor is or whoever the mayor might be. And I would hope that whoever's running for mayor would make a pledge to take care of these taxes if it isn't resolved by them.
Even if these results are successful and taxi drivers receive financial assistance and or loan forgiveness, is that taxable? And would they be given a double whammy because they'd have to pay a huge tax bill on it?
I am not the tax guy, so I don't really know the answer to that. Knowing the state as we do, we tax unemployment. We're going to be taxing the stimulus checks. We tax everything. So I would probably say, unfortunate, that they would have to figure out a way to deal with the tax implications of it as well. But it's better to have it, hopefully we could get it to where most of the money is waived and they can worry about that after they get back to gainful employment.
I think that Representative Meeks's bill deals with that issue and attempts to change it from taxable income to non-taxable. Felicia, do you know?
Federal level, but
Yeah,
we're constrained to federal regulations at the moment. So right now, because in fact it came up even with the excluded workers program that we just funded for $2.1 billion. Now, at one point we were trying to not do tax on that, but unfortunately we have to tax that as well because it's according to federal rules. State unemployment is taxable, the new excluded workers program, and also I would encourage, and Senator Ramos is not here to talk about it, but that was a program that we put together just to try to help people like the taxi drivers that can't don't have documented income, and are, residents of the state. I would encourage all of them to apply under that program as well, just with some relief. And that's additional relief that they would be able to get.
And Candidate Singh, I know I watched your previous live stream on the same topic, and you came together with other legislators, and you were doing not rallies, but supporting each other. How is that going, and what people can do to really help the issue?
Yeah, so I hosted a taxi medallion crisis forum with other candidates running for city council. We had Senator Ramos as a guest to talk about her bill on the floor for the restructuring of debt at 125. And really, it was a moment of deep solidarity between candidates and other taxi drivers and families and folks who are really just facing this crisis at home, to be in community with each other and discuss what we can do for relief and how we can push our city and state legislators to really take a stand to provide true and reliable debt relief for our community members. I mean, this is a working class issue. This is an issue that impacts our immigrant population. It's an issue that impacts our seniors in our communities. I mean, you have seniors who are supposed to be retired. My father, for example, is 66 years old, and he is unable to retire because he has to pay off this debt and now has filed for bankruptcy and still needs to make a living, still driving his taxi every day. Ridership has decreased by at least 80% in our city. And so you have taxi drivers who are driving long hours throughout the day and coming home with maybe, if they're lucky, $20, $40. They're not eating. It has an impact on your health and your wellness, your mental health, your physical health. So this is an issue that is intersectional. It's also an issue that impacts generations, because now you have children of taxi drivers who are accruing debt, who are helping their families pay bills, and supplementing income, working multiple jobs so that they can also be a part of keeping their homes. So really what we need to be doing as a city is pushing our mayor not to adapt this plan that he's looking to pass with the $65 million of relief. It's only restructuring debt for up to $20,000, with potentially some people qualifying for financial assistance up to $9,000. So all taxi drivers are getting really in their pocket is maybe like $29,000 to assist them in paying debt. That's not financial relief. You're putting the people further in debt with a fake plan that's actually centering hedge funds and centering lenders. They're not centering our working class communities. So every single day for the last 23 days, taxi drivers have been rallying outside City Hall as a daily reminder that debt relief is a real need, and that folks are at risk of taking their own lives, are at risk of foreclosure of their homes, or at risk of losing their livelihood because our city doesn't have the will and the courage to, one, admit that they are responsible for predatory lending, but two, adapting a plan that's actually going to work for our city.
Very well said. That is so true. Families are suffering. There are so many people who are out there in rallies, and it's not being covered. People don't know about this situation. And there needs to be a solution. Like you mentioned, candidate Singh, the mayor's bill, the $65 million is not helping. These debts are going for $500,000. These debts are going for about $200,000. The $29,000 is not going to do anything for these taxi drivers. It's really not, and it's not fair. So,
to give you an idea of the scale that's involved, a while ago, Attorney General Letitia James filed a notice of claim against the city for $810 million. And just this week, New York City Taxi Drivers Associations filed a $2.5 billion class action lawsuit against the city.
In fact, Attorney General Tish James actually dropped the charges against the city, which is really unfortunate that happened. She dropped the fraud investigation and charges against the city, and that was really surprising. She did back New York Taxi Worker Alliance's plan for debt relief, which can be found on their website at nytwa.org. But at the end of the day, when you have the Attorney General dropping charges against the city, that also feels like a moment of deep sadness for our taxi worker community, because you were relying on the city being able to take responsibility for what they did. And when you drop charges like that, it's like you're letting the city go off being unchecked. And that's dangerous, because that's another reminder that our city is centering corporations, are centering banks over people who are working class and have been serving New York City for the longest time, even during the pandemic.
So let's say in an ideal world, the bill is passed and everything goes well. What do you think happens in the future for medallions? And would that practice continue? Would there be any repercussions? What do you foresee, if you can? Senator Comrie, and maybe then after candidate Singh, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that we just have to keep the pressure on and to try to make sure that this can happen. Nothing happens immediately. I know that they've been pressuring for a while, but we are at a new level of responsiveness, I think, in all three branches of government. I think that the need is clearly there, and as we continue to press forward, that it will happen. We will do everything we can to try to make sure that these drivers are taken care of. It's important. These folks are hardworking people that are willing to do whatever is necessary to make sure that they have a decent quality of life for their families. The least that we can do is to create an opportunity for them to get back to a normal state of affairs, working without the pressure of a difficult and unfair, and I would use even stronger words, but these unscrupulous loans that were dropped on them by lenders that have truly disabled their lives. So we need to get them back to an opportunity where they can work and do the things necessary to raise a family, to have a quite decent quality of life, because they put in the hard work, and they should get the proper rewards and not be further put under a level of stress that's unprecedented, to where people are taking their own lives because of unscrupulous mortgages, unscrupulous loans that were put upon them because they were trying to be able to try to have a decent quality of life. So I'm optimistic. I'm not, disheartened by anything. I think that this will happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Senator Comrie. I think that this is multifaceted, that even with the debt relief, we also have to think about economic relief for folks. We have to think about the fact that we still have congestion surcharge that taxi drivers pay. This surcharge is a tax. And it was supposed to be to help prevent congestion in Manhattan. But really what it is you have taxi drivers not only paying their medallion fees, not only paying regular TLC fees, but you also have them paying surcharge fees, which can rack up anywhere between $800 to $1,200 a month. Plus you pay that fee again every 3 months. So there's a lot that needs to be improved in the quality of life, of living a dignified life and working life as a taxi driver. We need more taxi stops in the cities so taxi drivers can stop and rest. We need more public bathrooms for workers, our essential workers, to use the bathroom. We need to rewrite how surcharge works in our city. Yes, I understand that we need to reduce congestion because that helps with air pollution and so many other things, but it's also not to be on the backs of taxi drivers. So there's a lot of quality of life issues that impact our taxi drivers and our working class communities, and debt relief is one of them. But it's also really expanding how we take care of our working class people in the city in general. Funding excluding workers is part of that. And it's wonderful, making sure that Uber and Lyft as a corporation recognize their drivers as employees. There are multifaceted ways to ensure that, taxi drivers can continue their livelihood in our city. And we need to make sure that we're recognizing that in how we write legislation.
Most of us can probably remember a school civics lesson about how a bill becomes law. Senator Comrie, where is the bill right now? What is the status of that bill, and how soon before it can become a law?
The status of the bill is that it's been introduced by Senator Ramos. We had a hearing with Senator Ramos, myself, and Senator Tim Kennedy. We are pushing now to get it more members to sign on and to have it passed before the end of our session this year, which normally is in June. So we're looking to try to move it now. We would appreciate anyone that can reach out to any of their local elected officials and every elected official in the state to get them to understand the importance of this bill to help us lobby for it. So right now we're doing the internal and external lobbying to try to make sure that the bill gets passed.
What is your sense of the support that you're gathering for it?
Right now, we were focused on budget over the last 3 weeks. So to be honest, we hadn't worked on it in specifics, but the last time that Senator Ramos went at it with myself, we were actually heartened at the level of responses from people and the understanding that they know that this industry was the people in this industry and that the drivers especially were put into a difficult space, and we need to help them get back to a level of comfort so that they can focus on earning and a living and not being under stress because of these unscrupulous loans. And just you talked about civics in schools. I just want to delve into that for a minute. I think the lack of civics being taught in schools at every level is dealing with the rise in immigrant crimes and hatred among other cultures and all of the anti-Asian violence that's happening now. We need to reinstate, and one of the things that I was trying to push to get done in this budget, I'm proud of the fact that we did more money for going to Asian groups to deal with hate, but we also need to make sure that civics are retaught at every level, at every grade level in school, because we need to reinstill in people a love and respect for all cultures, for all people, and a lot of that's missing. And the other part is the mental health services that we need to expand also. We did get some back, but we did not get as much restoration for mental health services that we need. Especially for the taxi drivers, they need to talk to somebody as well because they're under a lot of stress trying to maintain. Our candidate Singh talked about the stress on her family and everything that she's going through, and that they've known drivers that have for somebody to commit suicide. Clearly, there's a level of stress that they are under. Clearly, they need to be able to talk to people. Clearly, we need to make sure that those folks that are available for them to talk to are people they feel comfortable with approaching as well. So those are things that should happen, hopefully in the next few months, where we can get people that are within the community can talk to and relate to people from their own culture to try to give them the services that they need, and so that people can feel comfortable about talking to folks. People don't want to go to Manhattan for mental health services or financial services or even foreclosure relief. We need to make sure that those services are done by locally based providers that understand the culture and the differences in every community.
For our viewers that are watching, what is the next step that they can do to push this bill? So you mentioned that they could contact someone. How can they do that?
Contact your state elected official. Keep putting pressure on the mayor's office from that end of the perspective. Contact your city council members. Let folks know that you want to see this happen at every level of government. You can email, write letters, make phone calls to the mayor's office, to the city council member, and to the state assembly and senators to try to make sure that we are all not letting this drop from our active participation so that we can get this thing resolved.
Thank you.
I just want to go back a little bit before we close to the issue. What do you think would be the best to happen in the future? Should there be an entity to oversee the medallion prices, or we're not ever going to have these high prices because of Uber and Lyft again? An entity should oversee the process. Wasn't that the issue the first time? And can that be prevented from happening again? How that can be prevented from happening again?
The New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission oversees the prices and sets the prices, but I think that there should be public hearings. Then the city council people should have some oversight as to what the medallion prices are. I think that it got out of control, frankly, because the city was desperate to raise revenue. But I think that now we need to make sure that the city council has some review and oversight before they, set medallion prices. Yes, that the TLC should be able to do all of the management of the program, but especially when it comes to looking at what these real values of the medallions are in this new world that we're living in, it really needs to come under review or secondary review by the city council.
I absolutely agree. I mean, we have a task force. We had a task force on the medallion crisis at the city council level. They put out a very thorough report on what happened and how we got to the place that we're at today. And since then, I don't foresee the task force. I don't see the task force really doing much right now. I think it's really important that we reinstate the task force. We conduct, TLC is a city agency, really ensure that we conduct oversight. City council has 3 really important roles, and that's public land use, it's the city council budget, and it's, again, third, oversight. And so if we have city agencies not really working for the people and not doing the work that they need to with the power that they have and the jurisdiction they have in supporting our working class communities, then city council needs to step up and make sure that we're conducting hearings and testimonies to investigate what it is that our city agencies are lacking. And that's something that I hope to do with TLC once elected, to ensure that TLC is working and running with the best interest of the people and not hedge funds at heart.
So wonderful to have you. And I think we can end it here. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll see you next time on Queen's Conversations. Bye for now.